Picture this, a massive cargo ship loaded with goods worth millions is sailing through rough seas. But suddenly, it starts sinking, not because of a storm, not because of a mechanical failure, but because it was loaded past its safety limit. Hey everyone, I'm Felipian Sanchez, a second year marine engineering student from Section Alpha. And today, we're going to break down something that has saved countless lives at sea, the Load Line Convention. We're not just talking about the famous Plimsoll line, but also the rules and regulations that make sure safe stays safe in different conditions. Trust me, this is something every seafarer must know. Back in the 1800s, there were no strict rules on how much weight a ship could carry. Greedy ship owners overloaded their vessels and many ships never made it back. Thousands of sailors lost their lives not because of nature, but because of bad decisions. Then came Samuel Plimsoll, a British politician who pushed for change. His efforts led to the creation of the first ever load line in 1876, a simple but powerful mark on a ship's hull, showing how low it can safely sit in the water. But that was just the beginning. The Load Line Convention was created to set global rules for how ships should be loaded. But here's something that most people don't know. There's not just one load lines. There are several, each designed for different conditions. Each of these load line is placed in different parts of the ship for very specific reasons. It's not just how heavy the ship is, it's also about where the weight is placed, how the water behaves, and what the ship is built for. So, why do ships have multiple load lines? Think of it like adjusting how much weight you could carry based on where you are. So, the summer load line or the letter S in the mark, it is the standard mark for calm seas and normal conditions. Ship can carry their usual weight here. The winter load line or the letter W in the Plimsoll line place is slightly higher because cold water is denser, which makes ship sit lower and rougher waves can swamp overloaded vessels. Tropical load line placed lower because warm water is less dense, so ship float higher and can take on slightly more weight. Next is the freshwater load line or the letter F. Freshwater is much less dense than seawater, making ships sink lower. This mark prevents ships from sitting dangerously low in lakes or rivers. Tropical freshwater load line or the TF. This is for ships in warm freshwater regions. Since tropical water is already less dense and freshwater is even lighter than seawater, ships float the highest where ship float the highest here and can carry most cargo in these conditions. Last is the North Atlantic Load Line or the WNA. This is for one of the roughest seas on Earth. Ships crossing region face giant waves and freezing temperature, so their load must be lighter to stay safe. So load lines are not just random marks. Each load line is calculated based on the ship's stability and buoyancy, the expected weather and sea conditions, and the weight distribution on board. Now, let's talk about the actual rules behind the load lines. The Load Line Convention is full of important regulations, but I'll break down the most important ones from Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 in a way that makes sense. So, the Chapter 2 is titled The Conditions of Assignment. This is how ship qualify for load lines. So, this chapter basically says ship must have strong watertight hulls to prevent flooding. Openings like hatches and doors must be secured properly so seawater doesn't enter. Lastly, the ship must have proper drainage system to remove water from the deck. So that's for chapter 2. Next is the chapter 3. The chapter 3 is titled The Surveys and Maintenance. This is how ships stay compliant. This chapter focuses on making sure ships keep following the rules after they get load line certificates. So we have ship must undergo regular inspection to check if their load line is still valid. If a ship is modified or repaired, it must be re-inspected before sailing. And last, if the load line is altered or not visible, the ship can be detained at port. So, overloading isn't just about weight, it weakens the ship over time. More stress on the hull means more cracks, and eventually the ship can break apart in the middle of the ocean. So the next time you see those weird lines on the ship's hull, remember, they're not just paint. They represent years of experience, hard lessons, and past tragedies, and commitment to safety. The load line convention exists to save lives. It protects the ship, the crew, and the cargo. And as future maritime professionals, it's up to us to follow these rules and make sure every voyage is safe. Voyage is safe and secured. So, if you learned something new today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more maritime content. Thanks for watching.